So I don't understand why some people will watch videos wanting to learn something about a specific subject, pick subject, doesn't matter, any subject, and then tell the person who is on the video that they don't know what they're talking about. They know everything there is to know. Why are you teaching this? Well, why'd you come and look for a video if you already know everything there is to know about the subject? I'm confused by that. Now, I don't have a problem with people having a difference of opinion with me. Never had a problem with that. If you want to do something different, by all means, you should do it. You should do what's comfortable. As a matter of fact, at the end of my video, every one of my video, I say, to live your dream, whatever that is. I mean, I get some people to come on my channel and tell me, I don't know why I want to live off grid. Why don't you talk about, and they'll name something else. But that's because it says Little House Off Grid right in the title of the channel. If you don't want to watch an off-grid channel, you don't want to learn how to live off-grid, then go do something else when you're occupying your time. I came here for entertainment. Why don't you entertain me? I don't want to learn about solar panels. Then go to an entertainment channel. I know that people are going to say, oh, it's just trolls, don't ignore the haters. But this one is not haters. These are people who have been subscribers for a very long time, very polite people who just don't seem to understand my thinking. And what's worse, it's not that they don't understand my thinking, is they refuse to understand my thinking. So I've been talking about solar panels quite a bit. Just the other day, maybe 2 days ago, I made a video and I went through all the steps of solar panels, and I was explaining how I thought there was something wrong with my batteries. And I finally figured out what it was and resolved the issue. What it was, after I redid all the solar panels, I made them more efficient, got another charge controller. I realized that the camper must have something that is drawing energy even when everything's unplugged. Now, I know about the converter. I'm sure somebody's gonna say, oh, this is a converter. The converter will draw energy. The converter takes AC electric, shore power, and turns it into DC electric, basically car electric, to run the lights and stuff. Well, I don't need that DC in that camper, so I shut it off at the breaker when we first got it. Not only that, it was quite obvious it was pulling electric. It was pulling like 50 watts without anything being on it. It was a big draw. So as soon as you clicked it off, you can notice down here to meters that was a huge draw. So shut that off. But there's something else in that camper that is pulling electricity from the batteries, and I don't know what it is. The plug that plugs into shore power is lit up with a little LED light. That's about the only piece of electric that I can think it's drawing. For all this time, I thought my batteries had a problem until I figured that out. So what I have is 8 100 amp lead acid batteries from Walmart. I always say 8 100 amp hour batteries, but it's not. It's 7 100 amp hour batteries and 1 75 amp hour battery. I understand somebody's gonna say, you can't do that. They all need to be 100 amp hour. I understand. And I also understand the problems that will occur with it. I have bought these batteries at different times. Again, you're not supposed to do that, I know that. But I'm not having too many issues with them, other than I couldn't figure out the power drain. So now I figured out the power drain. My batteries are in a lot better shape. So I was getting down to 12.3 volts on my batteries when I woke up in the morning. Now that is the minimum you're supposed to go. In that video, I was explaining that there's 2 things that you gotta really watch out for lead acid batteries. If you watch out for these 2 things, they'll last forever. The first thing is, don't let them get below 12.3. Now, I'm not telling you any different. I'm just saying what my experience is. It's my experience that the 12.3 is not that critical. I'm not telling you to do it. As a matter of fact, I would encourage you to keep it above 12.3. I do. There's just times it happens it gets below 12.3. But more importantly, in my opinion, the thing you don't want to do is not charge it above 13.6 every day. If you want to keep good long life batteries, get it charged up 13.6 every day. I do that. I get it up to 14.4. As a matter of fact, I want to back up for just a minute. One other thing I did that I think helped is I used to charge them to 14.4 volts every day. My inverter was tripping on high voltage. It didn't make sense. It's not supposed to trip, I think, until 14.6. So I still had 2 points to go. But I also know that there is a mismeasurement between devices. The charge controller would say 14.4, but the battery chargers would say 14.5, and the inverter could have been saying 14.6. So there's just differences in the metering devices. So I dropped the charge controllers down to 14.3. That means the batteries cannot get charged any more volts than 14.3. I did that at the same time I unplugged the camper. So that may have helped for some reason that I don't understand, dropping the voltage. But whatever the reason is the other day I woke up and the batteries were at 14.5. So that means I only discharged the batteries by half. When I go to bed at night, the battery should be right around 12.8 volts. So I charge it up to 14.3. The sun goes down and the batteries drop down to 12.8, 12.9, 12.8, somewhere around there. And then overnight, as the freezer runs, it drops down, drops down. Normally it was dropping down to 12.3, but the other day it was down to 12.5. So that's roughly, I still got half the battery life left, half the amperage left. Now when I say these are 100 amp batteries, that's false advertisement. They're actually 50 amp hour batteries. And the reason is because you can't discharge your battery below 12.3 or 50%. But when you really think about these batteries, they're very tough. They're versatile. You can use them in the winter, although they're less efficient in the winter, you can still use them in the winter. Whereas like lithium ion batteries, you have to warm up. You have to keep it above 50 degrees. So some of them come with heaters and they're very expensive. Or you have to build an insulation box and run a heater. So you're running extra resources, whether you use propane heat or you use electric, you're using resources that when you're off grid, you really can't afford. But with these batteries, like I said, it gets cold, they get down to 12.1, and you're like, oh boy, that's aggravating, but I don't seem to ever hurt them. The oldest battery I got has been here since we moved here, which is actually this 75 amp hour battery. When I make videos where I talk about batteries, people will always bring up lithium ion batteries. Lithium phosphate ion batteries, they're the savior of the world. I actually had one person say that. They are going to save the world. Well, first of all, digging up the cobalt and the lithium over in China is actually using more resources than just using electric off the grid. It's very pollutant. But lead acid batteries, they're just kind of that old style tough thing, just keeps going. What the Energizer bunny. Maybe you should buy Energizers. Maybe, no, that's Everstart, never mind. Maybe we should buy Energizers, there we go. The other day, once again, I was talking about how I don't want to buy lithium ion batteries. They're just too expensive for me, and they're complicated. So when I talk about complicated, they actually have a computer chip in them. As a matter of fact, one of my commenters said that her friend, his friend, I feel like it was a her, but I may be mistaken, bought a lithium ion battery and the chip went out. Now, why does these things need chips? Well, these things need chips because it regulates the amount of electricity can go in it and come out of it, and it regulates the amount of, whether it's hot outside or cold outside. So what it does is this chip will say, oh, it's too cold, and shuts off the battery. So you can't charge it. Or it gets too hot, it shuts off the battery. If you draw too many amps, it shuts off the battery. If you draw too many amps too long, it shuts off the battery. Well, these things, they don't care what you do. If it's got the power, it says go for it. As a matter of fact, the inverter does more shutting off. I mean, the batteries just don't shut off. So I have this 2,000 watt inverter generator that I run the well pump on. I turn the well pump on, you hear the little fans and they're all, but it still starts the well pump. It will draw whatever amperage the electric cables here can handle. But on the lithium ion battery, if you draw too many amps too quickly, it'll shut off. I'm not into this computer thing. I mean, it's bad enough that this thing shuts off. High temperature, when it gets too hot in this As a matter of fact, you can see I'm running a fan right here. If it gets too hot, that shuts off. Or if the batteries get too much charge in it. Like I said, I think it was getting an over voltage, so this thing shuts off. If there's a low voltage, it shuts off. These batteries don't shut off, they keep going, but I don't have a battery that shuts off. But these lithium ion batteries, they do shut off. So they essentially, in my mind, what I'm thinking, they work very similar to the inverter. So not only do you have a battery shutting off, you have the inverter shutting off, you got all kinds of equipment shutting off all at once, and you're constantly fighting with it. Well, the whole point of living off grid is so you don't have to fight with power outages. Now, again, I am not saying that you shouldn't buy lithium ion. If you live in a van, it actually kind of makes sense. In a van, you're wanting to limit the amount of weight that you're carrying, and you're going to heat the van, I would hope. If you're living in a van, you're going to heat it. Unless you're in the grocery store, then it might drop below. I know I had one of those big lights. I mean, it was a huge spotlight. That's what I'm looking for, spotlight. We were traveling. It was cold. We were traveling. So the camper got cold, and I was trying to charge it, and I damaged that battery. The other thing is, I do worry about the lithium ion. They do catch on fire. You see it all the time, those hoverboards. I had a little hotspot device, can't think of what it was called, but I had one of those, and the battery caught on fire, swelled up. It was a real problem. Firemen don't even like going to electric car fires because that lithium doesn't go out. You have to use a foam or a powder on it. I read one article where the car caught on fire, fire department came out, put powder on it or something. It was out. The tow truck came to pick it up. Tow truck started pulling it. That powder blew off and it just relit. These, they're not ever going to catch on fire. To me, it's just old school stuff, and I'm into old school. I'm not going to make this more complicated than I need to. In my video that I made a couple days ago, I said I want you to be careful for the snake oil salesman. If you look in the link description box below, and they're advertising batteries and they're telling you, oh, this is the greatest battery in the world, go down in the description box and see if they're selling it. I don't sell these. You get them at Walmart. You go to the automotive section and you look at your battery rack and you go to the one that is the very biggest and the very most expensive one. It's usually down at the bottom right of their battery rack. At least the ones I go to. I mean, there was some in Texas I went to. They had them out in the middle of the aisle somewhere. And they're about $100, $110, somewhere around there. If you can bring in a cord, then of course you get the cord charge back. When I made that video, I said be careful about the people that leave a link. They want to make money off of it. And I don't blame them for making money if that's what they want to do. I don't do it on my channel, but that's what people do. I understand it. But the consumer, the person watching the video, needs to be aware of this. And that's what I said in the video. Well, sure enough, just like always, when I say I don't want to buy lithium-ion batteries, Rob, you're stupid, check out this video. And I bet I got 24 links to one video from different people. And it's a YouTuber guy that I used to watch all the time. And he was showing this battery. And he was going through all the shut-offs, you know, it shuts off at this high and this low, and the heat and the cold, and he did all the tests. And he was talking about how fantastic this battery is, and it's the cheapest on the market, it's the best in the market, it's great. It doesn't have a heater, but it's great, you're gonna love it. What did I do? I mean, I started getting excited about this battery. Like, yeah, that looks really good. And I hate lithium ion. And I'm thinking, well, maybe I should just get rid of these and start buying lithium ion. I knew the subscribers were just gonna love me for it. And so I scrolled down to the description box below, and it says, for my affiliate link, please click this link, and I get a percentage of the fees. Okay, great. Instead of telling me how great the battery is, why don't you tell me that you're selling this battery? That would have been a more honest approach to what you're doing. This particular YouTuber sat there and told me how great the battery was the whole time, did all these tests, not one thing failed, it was the perfect battery. And then he's selling it. That, in my mind, is manipulative. You're hiding the truth. You really need to put it right at the beginning of the video. I'm selling this battery. So you can either trust that my tests are good, or you need to be aware that I'm selling this battery. I mean, it just makes sense. But sure enough, he was selling it. I'm not going to buy something from somebody when they have no negative comments about the device. I told you about this battery. It struggles when you get it below 12.3 volts. It struggles in the cold. You got to make sure you get it up 13.6 volts all day. There's all the negative stuff right there. If you're not making any negative comments on that instrument, and then I find out that you're selling it, then I know that there are issues with that battery that you are not disclosing. You're not going to want to disclose it because that's going to hold up sales. There's going to be that one guy that says, no, I'm not risking that one thing. Like the lady in the comment section who said, my friend has a lithium ion battery and the chip went out and the warranty wouldn't replace it. I'm going to stick with these. They're tried and true. They're die hard. I mean, they're the Energizer Bunny. And I know it makes people mad. I get emails all the time telling me to do it. If this goes out, I'm out $100. And I get to take the core in. And if the chip goes out on your lithium ion, you're just out, what, $400? So if you click this up next box, it'll take you to a video where I was talking about I've been charged with a crime. So I hope I can inspire you. So don't be fooled by the snake oil salesman. So you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.